everyone. This is another Scott. You know what? I'm going to say this over again. Hello, everyone. Class is back in session. We are
There we
here for
go.
another Five Nights at Freddy's 101. I'm Matt Orozco, joined by, as always, Brie from Macabre Daily. Brie, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I know we are. This is our part three, so I feel like just to give everyone an up to speed as to what we've covered thus far. First of all, if you haven't watched our first two parts of this, please go back and do that at this point. We'll link to them in the show notes so you can go back and check those out because these are full of spoilers. We're going to be covering everything Five Nights at Freddy's, canon, potential canon, things, theories, things that are proven, things that are divergent. All of that is in the mix. But for today, just to give a recap of last part we did together. So we left off at The Secret of the Mimic, which essentially is the first game that we covered in this entire 101. This follows the story of Arnold, who is essentially a technician sent to go retrieve a rogue M2 unit. And in the process of doing so, Arnold discovers through his data diver that there's all of these different secrets. He's being chased by different animatronics. And we learn a lot about how eventually something becomes quite famous in the FNAF series is the multiple endings. And this is where we see different ways in which Arnold either accomplishes his mission and everything is okay, hunky dory, which is the quote unquote bad ending, like the least interesting. Then we have the actual ending, and then we have the secret endings, all of which kind of talk about different ways in which Arnold learns about things like Fiona and learns about the deep, dark history of who's actually been helping him get through this factory. So there's so much in it. It gets darker than you'd ever think to imagine. We go back to the house, which is connected. Go back to the Edwin's house,
Yes.
which is connected to the factory. So again, I'm not doing it justice in a small period of time, but the Secret of the Mimic is not only the first game, but it's chronologically the first game, but it's the newest in the series, which then links us into kind of more mod like FNAF that most people got acquainted with, which is the Freddy Fazbear era. We see William Afton taking off with the success of the Fazbear Family Diner, which leads to the infamous eventual um, Dead Children's, is it massacre or Dead Children
Missing
incident?
the Missing Children's Incident.
Missing Children's incident.
MCI.
And in between that, we also had the Didophobia or Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which is another example of how the stories that emerge from kind of aside from the games end up becoming part of the lore and the canon, as does with Didophobia, came from Tales of the Pizzaplex number
Yeah.
8. And in Didophobia, we kind of shift gears slightly to focus on a kid named Rory who's trapped in a house. We come to learn is William Afton's house, and he's been experimenting on his kids. So this is the first example we get that Afton is not only a weirdo, but he's a weirdo to his own children. And then, of course, we
Well,
end
if you
with the
remember,
miss.
that's debated. So we don't know if it's his son or some random kid he's experimenting on, because the old theory was that his son dying from getting his head bit, but the book posits that it's just an experiment.
Yeah, and then well, we also have. Yeah, you're right. You showed me the graph. Out offline. Bree sent me the video of what happens when the brother puts the other brother inside Fazbear's mouth. And
Yeah,
ladies to say, it's the most shocking 8-bit moment I've ever seen.
it's
Um,
crazy.
so you
We
know
got
what?
another one today, so.
I know. Well, I'm excited because you told me last at the end of last episode that now we're going to get kind of full speed ahead right into the games one after the other.
Yeah, we're gonna
Um,
hit
we
the
also
gas today.
we also got a hint of Circus Baby and her relationship to Elizabeth, and then of course we closed with the closure of Fazbear's Pizza due to the missing children incident, the thing that every FNAF fan knows and is aware of because this is the starting point for so much of this story and this lore.
Right.
So, Bree, how'd I do? What's my
You
grade?
did. Listen, I'm very proud of you. That was like where we went. Remember last week, for anyone who didn't watch, we had some like D. We had like a straight up D. Like he didn't fail because enough like words where I would give him half credit on a lot of his answers. But today I think we're at like a B minus. We
All
had
right, cool.
a couple little mess ups, but it's okay because they weren't big enough to have to waste time on. I did want to point out one thing that gets a little confusing, and that's that we talked about the research and development floor of Murray's Costume Manor last week, and we talked about how um, Arnold the technician we play as, discovers prototypes of the Freddy Fazbear's animatronics as they appear in FNAF 1. Okay. But then we talked about the open of the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, first killing spree, June 1985-ish on our timeline. Then the closure. I wanted to point out we never see this restaurant. This
Like
is
in any
not the
game.
same. This is not our Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in FNAF 2. It's not our Freddy Fazbear's Pizza from FNAF 1, even though the animatronics that were in this original location will show up in both of these games.
So
Because as soon as we dive into our first game for today, which is FNAF 2, I'm pre-addressing a question I would expect you to have by saying, remember, we've never seen this, even though we know they look identical to FNAF 1. Okay?
nice little
So,
lore side cut or shortcut.
yes, yes, it's critical. That's critical to remember. We took a break at a bad time last week, so I wanted to make sure we're still on the page for that because we're diving into FNAF 2 before we ever touch FNAF 1 right now.
Right. And we are in nice old 1987, which young Matt would have been 2 years old in this FNAF world. So
Ah,
probably right for William Afton to kidnap and experiment
yes,
on.
a little young. So lucky you. You couldn't wander from your parents quite yet. All right, so FNAF 2. Let's just dive into it after the closure of the original Freddy Fazbear's. So this game was released in November 2014, which is like right on the heels of the first one, because that's how these games used to come out. They just friggin' appeared out of nowhere at first. It sees players take on the role of security guard Jeremy Fitzgerald at what is called a new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, very publicly following the closure of the original. And that's something you hear in the game pretty quick. Over the course of 5 nights, because these are the traditional games, Jeremy must survive his shift while contending with the location's new, more family-friendly animatronics, which are called the toy animatronics, which if you've been watching TV in the last couple of months, you've seen throughout the trailer for FNAF 2, the movie. They're very colorful. They look like kind of baby doll-ish things. They have big red Pikachu-y cheeks. Um, but unfortunately, the new Freddy Fazbear's Pizza does not feature security doors in its office. For anyone who's familiar with FNAF 1, that was the big change in this game, is that there's no way to close the doors. There's no way to keep animatronics out of the office.
Dun dun
Um,
dun.
dun dun dun. So Jeremy has to do something different. Um, this game again posits that the animatronics think that a security guard is an endoskeleton without its suit, which is kind of what they said. That's what the like Fazbear employee that instructs you says, but we always know there's something else. There's another reason why they want to get you. So to stay alive, Jeremy has to wear an empty head from a Freddy costume anytime something enters the office, which
So like
he,
that's like a hiding mechanic, essentially.
yes, but he can't breathe in it. So you
Ah,
can't, yeah, so you can't keep it on forever. And it doesn't work on one animatronic, which we'll talk about. So he wears this. He's told by Phone Guy, which we're going to get a little more into, this character called Phone Guy, um, that if he wears it, the animatronics will think it's another animatronic and leave him be. This works for all but one, maybe two, depending on it, what you consider an animatronic in this game, which is called the puppet. It also doesn't work on Foxy, but Foxy's always a nuisance. But more importantly, a new animatronic not fitting any other character type from throughout the series is the puppet, who is pacified. It's a security animatronic, like a security robot that stays in this big present box in one of the rooms. And the only way to keep it in its box is to repeatedly play this music
like a
on
Jack in the Box type music.
like a wind up like on a wind up thing. So you control it in the game from your camera. You have to hold a button down and it'll fill up the gauge again. And it just endlessly ticks down every night, all night. So you can't just You can't just be hiding in the mask and you can't just be looking for the animatronics. You have to check this pretty constantly and wind it up, wind it up, wind it up, because you never know when you'll be stuck, not able to click anything. Um, so he rewinds it constantly. In addition to the puppet, the title sees the introduction of two new original animatronics, one called
The Mangle,
the Mangle, and
like Bangle
Balloon,
with an M.
Mangle, the Mangle. And it's a like haphazard combination of a bunch of animatronic parts. And Balloon Boy, which is just this little statue that holds a sign that says, and people could take balloons from it, I imagine, during the day. But he's a nuisance as well. He talks. He's the first animatronic in Five Nights at Freddy's to speak. Um, because it's just like this friendly little greeting thing. So like if he's wandering around or he's in an event, you'll hear him be like, hello, like this little pre-recorded child voice or
That's
giggle.
creepy.
He'll giggle when he moves. On later nights and some camera screens, we also see, this is why it was important, withered, broken down, decaying versions of the original Freddy Fazbear's animatronics.
And these aren't the same ones, though. These are different.
These are the ones that we hypothetically saw the prototypes of in Secret of the Mimic. These are
Okay.
the ones from the restaurant we never see, but we know it opened and closed. And now these animatronics, what's left of them, these like ripped up little things are in this location in one of the rooms. And in later nights, they start wandering as well. Um, FNAF 2 is also the first canonical appearance chronologically, like I said, of a character called Phone Guy, who back in the day gave us our instructions, was kind of our tutorial person, but ended up being like a major character. And for a really long time, people thought Phone Guy was William Afton.
Mm.
Just that was because we didn't know many people back then. But he's a mysterious individual who calls Jeremy on the office every night. He provides players with crucial information. Like he'll be like, they kind of introduce things night by night because the nights ramp up the difficulty and new animatronics come into play. So he just happens to drop some kind of coincidental day shift information about them. Like, oh, we also got this new, there's this animatronic in the playroom called the Mangle. People take it apart and put it back together. Like, it just so happens he mentions it the day they come alive. Um, but it's also important because he provides what at the time was the only lore about what happened after FNAF 1. Or not after FNAF 1, what happened in that original Freddy Fazbear's, which we've never seen.
And I was gonna
So
say,
he,
isn't FNAF 2 a prequel?
yeah, yeah. But it's not a prequel to the restaurant we've never seen.
Right.
Because
It's a sequel to the first game.
now that we clearly have Secret of the Mimic and we have FNAF 2, we know that there's something that happened between them we've never seen. So not only like we talked about on the first week, is this game uh well, at the time we thought it was a follow-up to FNAF 1 because like we talk about all of these games, are you playing through the aftermath of an incident? But we learn that we're playing through the aftermath of an incident that to this day we've never seen still.
Gotcha.
So like this,
But that's
but
not revealed till the end, or is that something going
it's
in?
we know now. During the thing, he's like, oh, there was an old restaurant, it closed. And at the time, we only had FNAF 1 to go off. So we're like, it must have been FNAF 1 because the animatronics that are withered look like the ones from FNAF 1. Um, but here's where it gets interesting. Following completion of the Five Nights in FNAF 2, Jeremy transfers to the day shift. He's done with the night shift. He survives all 5 nights. Unfortunately for poor Jeremy, another incident occurs during the day where an animatronic bites his head,
Bites
removing his
Jeremy's
front,
head.
yeah, removing his frontal lobe and leaving him in a vegetative state forever.
Wow.
The bite of 87, some would call it. People are confused. There's a lot of bites. We know this takes place in 1987 from context clues. Uh, but There's a lot of bites. There's a classic clip of Markiplier playing this. Is that the bite of 87? Which he said to the clip that I showed you of the small child. But now we think that's 83, you know. Uh, but it's not important. It's a bite. And a bite is important because it removes someone from the playing field and adds someone new. Um, because despite them being called Five Nights at Freddy's, the original Freddy's games had 6 to 7 nights at minimum. Because there was 5 nights of core story, and then they start dropping that lore all over the place for how much farther you can go. Um, so following the incident, the animatronics are no longer allowed to roam during the day, we learn from our phone guy. Uh, and we're a new player now. So night 6 sees the player take on a role of a new character called Fritz, Fritz Smith, after the location is temporarily closed because of what happened to Jeremy. Phone guy advises him. He doesn't know why he showed up, but he says, don't try to leave in the middle of the night. Just try to last till the morning, because these things still wander at night. Uh, he says that the phone guy then says that he might start taking the night shift position when the location opens again one day. He thinks he'll do it because he knows so much about it and things keep happening. Um, Fritz is promptly fired from this position. After you survive the night, you get a check. This is a classic thing from the games where when you beat night 5, you get a check and it has like a little note on it that'll be like, good job, you know. This one says he's fired. You get his pink slip instead of his check. He's fired for tampering with the animatronics and emitting a foul odor are the reasons he's fired.
You can get fired for emitting a foul odor at the Fazbear Corporation.
Well, we're going to see why in a sec. It is believed by many in the community that Fritz Smith is an alias of Michael Afton, the older brother in the family of Aftons, William's oldest son, which something like really screwed up is about to happen to. Probably happened before it. It's just the date's debated, so I put it after this. I have a note, which I put on all my notes for you, that at this point in the series, when we were playing FNAF 2, I think I said this once before, William Afton didn't exist in our minds, in our knowledge. He was depicted in these, again, 8-bit mini games as just some like purple guy, and we called him Purple Guy. So you might hear people reference Purple Guy if you ever talk to someone about FNAF, and that is the person we originally were like, this person's the villain, but he doesn't have a name till the Silver Eyes came out, those books. But that moves to what has long been my favorite FNAF game, which is called
Okay.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Again, we just went from FNAF 2. We're about to do FNAF 5, sister location. Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, which is crazy. It was revolutionary at the time. It was our first big jump play-wise and having the series become more and more of like a game, not so much like a simulator, a camera simulator. Um, but where it lands on the timeline is up for debate. Many believe it occurs between FNAF 2 and the original FNAF game. So I put it here just for that. But like you said last week, we started touching on this because Sister Location is the game where we officially meet Circus Baby and the Funtime animatronics when we first played it. Um, and the title sees the return. I left in my notes for you the return of the Funtime animatronics to the series' chronological lore, following their creation for Circus Baby's Pizza World, which we talked about last video. People can watch that if they'd like. The game, instead of a phone guy, you're led by an unreliable handheld assistant, like an AI assistant that helps you through your job, called Hand Unit. And it's also at this time that the series, not important to the lore, but there's a big tonal shift in the series, which is where a lot of modern FNAF comes from. So the game stopped being just like jump scare simulators. And it started being like it has a weird sense of humor all of a sudden. It's really dark, but it's like black comedy dark at times. Like it tries to downplay it through being sarcastic, and the hand unit says things that are just like obnoxious to you. And I think I referenced when we talked about Secret of the Mimic, because it was weird we introduced it first, and I was like, you know, at the Edwin said he just finished a 36-hour shift,
They
and
said keep going.
the
It's like, oh,
person's
great
like,
job.
great job. Yeah, yeah. And that's like the kind of thing where it's like they don't care, and it's the same voice as Hand Unit. It's like whoever recorded Hand Unit's vocals is
Well,
dispatch in Secret
I
of the
did watch
Mimic.
some like some trailers and stuff since our last recording, and
Yeah,
the voice, the tone of humor is very much like the Outer Worlds or like something like from a Bethesda game where it's like tongue in cheek,
yeah,
hyper capitalist.
yeah.
Um,
It's like that. It's so
so
good. So
yeah,
that's where we're introduced to it. So Hand Unit states early on that due to the massive success and even more so the unfortunate closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, this is the first thing he says to you. It was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment. And this is seemingly a reference to the Bite of 87 in FNAF 2, but could also be, like I said, since it's debated, referring to the original, because we know Circus Baby has to exist after that original. Fans tend to lead towards it being a reference to the Bite of 87 when trying to place it on the timeline, just because the reason, the context in which things are spoken about in this make it feel like there's a chunk of time has passed. And we know how soon FNAF 1 follows FNAF 2, so it has to be like to distance itself from the original that far, it has to be here. Um, but again, super important. So we had Balloon Boy talking in FNAF 2. It's really the only character that's talking to us still. And then Sister Location immediately starts with what at the time I would call a cutscene, where it's just like panning around like a model of Circus Baby, and we hear William Afton speak. And someone at Fazbear, someone in some kind of technical field, is questioning him. That's as soon as it starts. So this game is like again a tonal shift where we're doing story now. This game's introducing, you're not just jumping in. You're listening to mysterious characters speak, and it's officially where William Afton is confirmed as this character. We read about him in a book, but we are from them. At that point, we didn't know books mattered.
up until this
And
point, like as far as the games are concerned, there
yeah,
are four whole games before they actually confirm the existence of what ends up becoming a major character
right.
in the franchise lore.
So this guy says, tell me, Mr. Afton. Like it's like boom, right on the head, like as soon as it starts. They're questioning his weird design choices in the Funtime animatronics, which we touched on a little. Um, and then we hear another conversation, which is between Afton's daughter and him, where he wants to,
Elizabeth,
yes, see, look at you go, where she wants to see Circus Baby. She wants to play with Circus Baby. She sees it all the time, but Afton does not let her near it. Players take on the role of Mike. That's his name. They don't say anything else. But
just
again, we
Mike.
assume Michael Afton, because on Hand Unit it says put in your name, and you have to try to click these buttons while they're glitching. But on the top, there's a little piece of tape that has a name written on it that says Mike. Like you're trying to type Mike, but it messes it up. Um, And that's the first like weird thing where handing it's like, I see what you were trying to type there, and I've auto-filled the rest, I've auto-corrected it for you. Nice to meet you. And then it puts your name in as like Eggs Benedict, like something like ridiculous, which was a food at Halloween Horror Nights this year, tongue-in-cheek little joke. At Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, you could get pizza or Eggs Benedict. But I appreciate that. Um, yeah. So, anyways, you play as Michael Afton. People at this point are just like,
Is
"This
that
is Michael
confirmed? Is
Afton."
it Michael
Yeah, I
Afton?
mean, it's as confirmed as something in this could be. A new overnight employee at Circus Babies Entertainment and Rental. That's what we're introduced to as a business. It is a warehouse underground that rents out animatronics and costumes to parties. Oddly mirroring something we talked about last week, which was Murray's Costume Manor.
Costume Manor, yeah.
Yeah. So the business is known to rent out animatronics to birthdays and events during the day and then stores them at night in this place. These animatronics include Circus Baby, Funtime Foxy, Funtime Freddy, his hand puppet, Funtime Freddy has a puppet that's a little blue bunny that looks kind of like Bonnie, called Bon Bon. And Ballora the ballerina. There's a ballerina, whatever. And then little ballerinas are also little animatronics. But each night, Michael's tasked with checking in on all the animatronics and returning them to their stages because they kind of wander off. Sometimes they each have like a room that's their own room. However, he quickly finds himself fixing technical errors and power glitches that seem to just randomly happen when he arrives every night. Um, Sister Location is the first FNAF game that allows you to move, which is what was so revolutionary about it. This is not you sitting in an office. This is you exploring, still in a very crude, like 90s point and click adventure type of game where you're like in a room and you can click an arrow over here to go to that room or an arrow or to event this way or that way. But it's crazy in that, some of the puzzles are walking around a room to avoid things. Uh, it was just nuts at the time. Um, so it's also the series' first true narrative adventure, like I said. So starting with the title Second Night, the first night is basically meeting the animatronics, where you'll go and again, the tongue-in-cheek hand unit is like, it looks like Ballora is off her stage. Let's give her a nice controlled shock to get her back. And you like shock them, and it's like a horrifying like scream rings out. Let's try again. You do it again, and then it's like perfect. Ballora's back and feeling better than ever. And you do
You
that to everyone. Yeah.
love a
Then
little
you,
mascot torture, you know?
yeah, and you do that to all of them. But starting with the title Second Night, Circus Baby makes contact with Mike when he enters her room. And Michael allies with Circus Baby to avoid the other animatronics and survive his shifts from then on out. Where
So Circus Baby's on your side.
over the speaker, Circus Baby will speak to you. And she has like this just creepy ass voice that I love her. I love her so much. A woman named Heather Masters voiced her, and she's a big person in the series. But this has always been my most iconic character. Um, but during night 4, things change. You are doing your normal stuff, you're avoiding animatronics, restoring power, whatnot. Mike is captured going into night 4. So night 3 to night 4, he's captured and placed inside a spring lock suit. And Circus Baby assists him in escaping. And the way that happens is um, he wakes up in the suit and you see it through the faceplate, and then the faceplate opens and you can see the gauges for the various spring locks in the suit.
That's
And you
terrifying.
have to try to survive long enough for someone in the day shift or I don't know how, someone to see you on the camera in the room. But as you do it, these little ballerina things try to climb into the suit. And the only way to get them off is to wiggle. Now, tell me, what does wiggling do to a spring lock suit, Matt?
Makes it malfunction and break your fucking arms off. Well,
Right.
I pulled up a clip of Circus Baby's voice. Oh,
We'll make sure it's a real one.
is that it?
I think so. I could barely hear it. I'd play it for you, but my phone's my camera.
Is this
It's,
Circus Baby? Oh, you can't really see my
I
phone.
can't see anything.
Does she
It's
have like
fine.
a she look like a jester kind of?
Yeah, she's big ponytails and stuff. There's
Yeah.
different
Yep.
versions of her. So let's not spoil the lore. But anyway, so yeah, you escape eventually. You also see Ballora get like absolutely devastated from something. Ballora's in the room too. You're in an animatronic suit. You see Ballora, and this thing is like striking Ballora, and it breaks. And I think it's like dropping a little lore, what's going on. You don't really know what's going on at the
Are the little
time, but
ballerinas the one
you're
that
gonna
attack
learn.
Ballora?
No, like a huge
Okay.
mechanic, like you hear like horrible mechanical banging, and you see Ballora's like whole body like from getting hit
So
over and over again.
so some other animatronic is doing that.
Something is doing it. We're gonna learn it very quickly. So Mike escapes, but during the final night, Circus Baby instructs Mike to destroy her empty body. She says there's something wrong with her. Part of her is bad. She can feel it. Um, Whatever it is, like there's something wrong with her. She wants you to destroy her body and remove a chip from her arm. So you maneuver yourself to the certain room, you find Circus Baby sitting there, and you follow her instructions on how to do this. She states that the body part of her is bad, but the chip contains what is good, and it needs to be separated so that only the bad is destroyed. Uh, and Mike does it. Now, it's interesting at this point because when you find Baby, she's just lifeless. But it's also the first time you're really close to Baby. Not between glass from you being in one room and her being in her other, where you shock her. Um, and something's not right. You can't see her eyes, it's just big empty chasms. She doesn't move when you like are doing all this stuff. She's just sitting there, like kind of slumped over. Um, so you take the chip and then you follow her instructions, and she's like, you got to get to this certain room. Uh, and she tells you in this big pitch black room that you used earlier to outmaneuver different animatronics, she'll be like, walk forward, stop, walk to the right. And you're just in pitch black, and all you hear is your footprints. And you get to this room, and the door locks behind you, and there's this big mechanical arm in front of you. And she says that you're now in the scooping room. And she's
Yikes.
real cryptic. She goes, you're in the scooping room now. And she's like, Funtime Freddy has already been here. Funtime Foxy has already been here. Ballora has already been here. And then she says, Circus Baby has already been here. So, like, this isn't Circus Baby we're talking to. Um, it's revealed that the Circus Baby voice instructing Mike is actually this malevolent combination of all the scooped out parts of these animatronics called Ennard, which is the innards of the animatronics. This animatronics called Ennard with an E. Uh, Ennard uses the room's scooper to tear Mike's insides out before wearing his skin and muscles like a suit and escaping the location.
Wait, we get to see that?
It happens first person to us. We're Mike.
And so we see our skin get ripped up. Oh my
So they
goodness.
see the thing hits you and it makes a scooping sound. And then there's an 8-bit mini game. Uh, Between each night of this game has the most surreal, weird between the night segments, which instead of mini games, it's you just watching this like vampire soap opera on your TV
Huh.
that drops little lore about William Afton. That's not important. Um, Yet until we like really know what it is. But in the last one, it's you do that and you're in the bathroom, and when it pans over to like Mike looking at himself in the mirror, his eyes are like glowing because it's the animatronic. But there's also this next part where we're going to talk about, which is crazy because like that wasn't crazy enough. Sister Location features an additional ending,
As it
like they
does.
all do.
Wait, did
Unlock
FNAF
during,
2 have a secret ending?
it had the bonus night where you're
Okay.
Fritz and you learn about the stuff. Um, it has a night 5 difference where you can make a different decision. You can utterly disregard Circus Baby's instructions on how to get to the scooping room and go to a different room instead, which sees players survive like a more traditional Five Nights at Freddy's. Um, it's incredibly important despite being non-canon. The events of what you're doing, again, are non-canon, but the room is littered with things that we didn't know. Okay. Um, like I said earlier, like FNAF games always had these secret things at this point. We're deep into this, like having bonus nights, having lore beyond the game. The secret ending of Sister Location includes both crucial canon reveals and like weird rewards that have become like jokes and stuff. But let's see. When you're there, there's security cameras like there have been in the traditional games. But doing a certain process sees these cameras On the desk, there's a series of televisions, showrooms from FNAF 4 on them.
Bidophobia. This is the one
Yes.
where you're in the Afton's house.
Yes. Now, what's most interesting is next to them is this little golden Freddy plushie that has like a walkie-talkie in its hand. And in all the 8-bit mini games of FNAF 4, the character you play as hallucinates that they're stuffed animals talking to them. And now in this, we're seeing that, but we're also seeing that the little stuffy's holding a walkie-talkie. So whoever is using these cameras is talking to someone through this plush, which again adds credence to that this is William Afton's kid thing. But again, important because we talked about how there's this weird pattern where we start to learn these places are connected to each other. And prior to Secret of the Mimic, this was nuts. Because we just had FNAF 4, and in FNAF 5, we learned that whatever this place is, it's connected to that place, you know? But in Didophobia, like I told you, we already spoiled it because the book came out years later that saw that Rory go from the secret door in the house to sister location. So that double tapped this. That was just like,
Right.
yes. Um, but what's funny is what happens after it, which is completing the night reveals 8-bit cutscenes that see Mike and Ennard walking down the street over the course of multiple days. It's literally I'm gonna send it to you after. It's one of the funniest things I think in the world. For how just like nonsensical it is to include it, but how long it is. Because he walks through this process like 4 or 5 times. And it's the same cutscene, and he's walking, and it's this 8-bit character with this big smile on his face. But over the days, his body starts slowly changing color and decaying in each of
Yeah,
these
skin will do
videos.
that.
Yeah. And all the people that are like waving at him each time slowly get more and more concerned. And then like some of them are like hiding behind their houses. And it's like it's just great. But in the final scene, like a just puke green colored decaying Michael Afton like vomits entered out of his body into
Love
the
that.
sewers. And we hear Circus Baby say that we can't die yet. And Mike survives this somehow. Something. Mike gets back up, having been scooped and barfing out Ennard. Now we have a decayed, living Michael Afton here.
So
Um,
Michael Apton's basically a zombie.
yes. And we already mentioned it, but it's important. I'll just note that like it's also in this game that there's a bonus mini game where you find out like Circus Baby canonically killed Elizabeth. Um, and it's also pretty bizarrely the only time where they directly are like, this person possessed this thing. Because Circus Baby's eyes were a different color before she kills Elizabeth. She had blue eyes, and then she kills Elizabeth and starts being sentient, and her eyes turn from blue to green, which is just surprisingly on the nose storytelling for the series, especially back then. But yeah, that's sister location. And now we are gonna keep mentioning foul smelling Michael Afton for a bunch of games.
I love
And
the idea that there's a like semi kids game where you play as a decaying person in one of the entries of the series.
yeah,
So
where you get all your innards scooped out at
all
the
for
at the normal ending of a game, and then you barf out the robot later. Because again, like I said, there's this like semi kid game thing about it, but it's like never been that.
no, I think that's the biggest misconception it seems about this entire series that it's
I
um
th I think it's like the debate between people being like, oh, like gateway horror doesn't isn't for kids. It's for anyone getting into horror. And it's that kind of debate where you're like, oh, if this was real horror, it would have been gorier. It'd be rated at least M, it'd be T or M, it'd be bloody. I'm like, or it could just be horrifically in your mind instead, like this always is.
I was gonna say, I think it actually is more disturbing the less you see because
Yeah.
it's implied, and
And I
because they
think
don't.
there's that juxtaposition of like what you said. When's the last time you saw just a horrific incident play out in like NES graphics, like that kid getting his head bit?
Yeah,
There's something
it's.
really messed up about that. Not seeing it happen in real life, but being like, this is just a really happy, colorful representation of what you have to imagine really happened.
I'm into it. Like this is
Yeah,
this is
it's
this
so
is
good.
this is so much darker than I ever imagined.
I know. We're still in like the old FNAFs. These are like the original ones, and they were this dark already. These are the ones where people are like, it was just a jump scare simulator. No, it's not. But now, getting really strange, really interesting. Gonna talk about this book right here.
An
Five Nights
interactive
at
novel.
Freddy's, an interactive choose your own adventure game book. Something more recent to the series, a lot of fun, more complicated than you think. You would be super into this, I think. And there's a couple of these.
I'll have to check it
Because
out.
it works like a game. Like it's crazy. Um, you'll see this one's called The Week Before, and it is the week before FNAF 1 happens, which again is very specifically story driven for the series. But what's fun about these games, books, I call them games, they are games, is that like you have an inventory. It's not just choose your own adventure. It's like, are you going to pick up this item? If so, we're never going to remind you of it again. So like there's pages in the back to keep track of your inventory and there's you collect
Huh. So it's
currency.
like an RPG, almost like a role playing,
Yes, and
like a
it's
tabletop
really
game.
good. It's so fun. Uh, you know, again, here's a big juxtaposition. Uh, it's made by Scholastic, which isn't helping my cause at all for, but it's also 13 and up,
Scholastic put out the scariest stories to tell in the dark book. So
which are
there's
among
no
the
like,
greatest of all time.
yeah, and
So
those still have some of the scariest stories like that have
to
ever
tell in the
been
dark.
written. Yeah, hey,
Yeah. But again, it's like that. Like, I bet a million mothers bought this for their small child, but they don't see on the back that it says 13 and up because they are just, there's this weird culture around it.
also, I think kids like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we were all children at one point. I think a lot of us got into horror as kids. But
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
my nephew, like my oldest nephew, who's now like 13,
Yeah.
going to be 13, is wanted to see the original or wanted to see the It movie when it came out, like the
The
recent one, like
newer
the
one.
part one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the newer one. And he was like 7 years old. And I'm like, there's no way he's gonna be there's no way he's gonna like this. He's gonna be too scared by it. He was fine with it, but like
Yeah. I'm
still,
sure.
like it's just like I think where kids are attracted to things that are
I
a little
think
bit
it's more
outside
just,
there.
I think it's more just like on the conceptual level where it's like, I can see why people don't understand where the series is because it's available. It's that thing, like we said last time. It's that thing your brother showed you that you weren't supposed to see, or that movie that the guy let you rent even though you're not old enough. Like that's what
Right.
it is. But I do think it's interesting. It's just like nowhere on here does it have any kind of warning on it except right here.
Little tiny one
Says
at the bottom.
13 and up. So only the person scanning this at checkout would ever see that. But anyways, the week before, crazy. Came out last year. It's that recent. Like I said, it's like at any point you could be learning lore about any part of the series. So here we're learning about FNAF 1 in 2024. Um, it's the first entry in the franchise's interactive novels. Um, it's widely accepted as canon because of how specific it is. It's just too damn specific not to be. Readers play as Ralph, a night security guard in his final week at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, the third Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where FNAF 1 takes place. Uh, the book is a direct prequel to the first Five Nights at Freddy's and sees readers attempt to survive 5 to 6 nights. Again, this even has a bonus night if you play it correctly. against Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy, the classic team, who have seemingly been restored following the closure of FNAF 2. So these are
Mysteriously been restored.
restorations,
Do we know
seemingly,
like who's put them
seemingly
together?
restored. So it's like they're not saying these are new animatronics. They're saying these are restorations of the withered ones we saw in two that were the originals in the restaurant we never saw. That's just how, again, you should be getting used to how the storytelling works. So that's why I put in brackets in my notes, the third Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, because they're all called that. It's hard to keep track. But anyways, in addition, it sees multiple appearances of Golden Freddy, which is a ghostly, decaying yellow bear who appears in FNAF 1 and 2. Uh, Usually you have to follow some kind of sequence to elicit seeing Golden Freddy, but it has a huge importance to the lore. And it's a central character in the movie, in the first movie, because the movies are real direct about these things. Due to the nature of the novel, unfortunately for you, uh, it has a million endings. It's like great. Like, and they're not just like the end, try again. They're like horribly graphic, crazy endings. Uh, but only one constitutes its canon narrative, so I'm going to spare you many of the details.
All
Uh,
999,000 of them. You just give me the
yeah.
one.
First of all, it's like, how long is this book? 300, it's 250 pages. So it has a lot of options, and a lot of them like interweave, but you find your way like the right way. But anyways, night one sees Ralph fix various fixtures in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza before returning home to his daughter. Very much like Sister Location or something like that, where it's like we're never under attack, we're getting the lay of the land, and then we're learning about our home life, right? He cook it, and that's I think something that's really interesting about this is that it's like it's mainly about Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but it also is very specifically introducing characters that have no connection to it, that seemingly have no connection beyond this book either, but it's told, it gives value to these other stories by how much attention it gives, how many pages. Like you don't just go home and come back. We learn what we do every single night and morning before we go back.
It
So
seems
he
so much
cook.
that the series is built off of that, though. Like these, like the tales from the Pizzaplex, all of these things kind of are related to the core story, but branch off in ways that allow them to make their own,
Yeah, but this is
narratives.
canon and these characters don't matter. Like, so what I'm saying is he gets home to his daughter who has a name, Copelia or Copelia. He cooks her breakfast, sends her to school, and then takes a nap before his next shift. Like, these are like, it's very strange to be doing this, to be like,
Not
it
at a
says that.
Fazbear's. Like
It's not like he goes home to his daughter. It's we read him cooking her breakfast because he got home after 6 a.m., sending her to school, taking a nap, getting ready for work, and then night two starts. You know, night two sees Ralph find and reattach Bonnie's head because, it mysteriously is not with its body before falling asleep in the office. He falls asleep in the security office. He jolts awake at 5:55 a.m. right before shift's done, to discover that both Bonnie and Chica are approaching the office from different halls, because that's how the first game is built. There's the door, there's the door. Bonnie makes it into the office, but the clock hits 6 before Ralph is killed, because they just stop at 6. Okay, canonically, which is interesting because that's been a question. Why can we wander out at 6? And it seems they just stop. They just stop at 6. He then returns home to Capelia. Night three sees Ralph tasked with cleaning up a heavily damaged party room, uh, with the novel inferring that someone might have broken in during the day. Um, yes. Ralph wonders about the intruder and, depending on the player's actions, has a nightmare about an apparition, Golden Freddy, attacking him. Eventually, Ralph cleans the party room and returns home, which spurs a discussion with his daughter, Copelia. She states, again, we're getting supernatural here. that she didn't sleep well, and that a woman called their house asking for him while he was gone. And night four sees Ralph tasked with shutting down the restaurant's breakers to stop the animatronics from partying or performing in the dining area. Ralph sneaks through the vents before successfully shutting down the breakers, returning to the office. At home, Ralph collapses on the couch, leading his daughter to grow concerned about what's happening when he's at work. She begs Ralph to quit his job and not go back for the fifth night. Uh, but he responds by saying, "There's just one more." There's just one more. It'll be fine. There's one more night.
Famous last words.
Yeah, because we
About
learned
to
that,
orphan his child.
yeah, because we learned that he's like on the brink of leaving. He wants to be done with this place. During the readers, and this should tell you something about how game-like this is. During the reader's first playthrough, Night 5 plays out like any early FNAF game title, with the only objective being to survive. Ralph must contend with every animatronic on the fifth night and perform a series of events that extend the experience to a sixth night after putting a specific number into the restaurant's phone, because this is a game. This is a game. It's a game to me. And it's a game on how it treats itself. After finding a specific code and putting it into the phone in an optional interaction, um, you can you find a message from someone named Bronwyn, a junior reporter looking into Freddy's and what's happening at Freddy's on a whole. She reveals that the animatronics are plotting to escape the restaurant and have been rerouting power so that they are overcharged and can leave the restaurant. She confesses to being the Night 3 intruder in this message before asking Ralph to call her mom and say goodbye for her because she's about to die and she's subsequently killed by Bonnie, which Ralph hears in the recording on the phone. Um,
Dang.
After going home, Ralph has the option to sign on for overtime. Following night 6, which sees Ralph non-canonically, because the bonus nights aren't canon usually, end his time at Freddy's. Players acquire an item at the end of this if they succeed in night 6. The cell phone, which assists with a second playthrough and unlocks the true ending after you go through the whole thing again with the cell phone in your inventory. Uh, More importantly, it sees Ralph record the FNAF 1 phone messages for whoever has the job after him, revealing him to be Phone Guy from FNAF 2,
Huh. So
who
phone guy
upon
is
the
Ralph.
opening, who upon opening another restaurant made good on what he said and took the night shift when the restaurant reopened,
Huh.
which again, we found out 10 years after FNAF 2 said that to us in 2024 in this book. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. That's why I'm putting this whole story together for you, Matt.
Well, yeah,
Um,
but I think that's what makes, I mean, not many not many franchises have this kind of lore. Like
mhm.
it's not common that something has this much story built into it and it's grown this way. It's like almost like the opposite of a TV show
Yeah.
where you have to think all these things out. Now it's like, nope, we're just gonna figure it out as we go.
All right, we got one more little thing. So during night 5 of the second playthrough, Ralph is cornered in the office by the animatronics, where he records his final message, which is FNAF 1, Night four's phone guy message, before being attacked and stuffed into a suit, resulting in his canonical death. The end.
Dang.
The
R.I.P.
non
Ralph.
the non-canon ending is he lives happily with his daughter. The canon ending is he dies horribly.
I mean, this tracks. At this
It
point, I'm not
dies,
surprised that
right?
that their canon ending is far more darker than the other ending.
Now I
So
know we're short on time, but I got enough time for this because FNAF 1, we're doing it short. There was nothing to it when it came out. But we're doing it. FNAF 1, we got to hit it before we dive into, because that means where we start next time is going to be nuts.
FNAF
Um,
3.
yes. And it also has a potential enormous time jump. So, released in August 2014, as we all know now, given its huge popularity, Five Nights at Freddy's, aka FNAF 1, sees players take on the role of a mysterious night guard, Mike Schmidt. Okay. Oddly similar to some aliases and the actual name of the person we think it is. Mike Schmidt, who is believed to be a post-entered Michael Afton at this point in life in the fandom. Over the
So
course
he's
of
not
five
actually a
nights.
person. He's just a
No, he's alive.
Frankenstein
He's
piece of
back.
parts. Oh,
He
okay.
no, because there's no machine left in him. It's what was left of Michael after Entered came out. Mike is offered guidance over five nights from Phone Guy, whom we now know to be the week before protagonist Ralph, who relays the history of the restaurant's checkered past. Due to the bite of 87, this location's animatronics, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, are not allowed to wander during the day, just like Mike, or just like, oh, there's so many names. Why can't I remember it? Fritz, from the other one, was told by the same guy. Uh, anyways, the bite of 87. I'm confusing myself, and I know it really well. Are no longer allowed to wander. They're therefore permitted to explore at night to keep their motors from locking up. That's what the phone guy says. FNAF 1 offers no narrative beyond that. I'm not telling you anything, save for discrete environmental changes that infer a deeper story. This is the spark that lit the flame for FNAF fans, which is that for no reason at the time, we're just playing this, free flash game like thing that's pretty spooky because its jump scares are very loud. Um, People start noticing, if you click back and forth a bunch, there's a 1 in, 30 chance that something different's on the wall.
Kind of like that ending that you have
Strange.
to keep playing through if you don't get you get it randomly, you get the chance to have that ending.
Yeah, yeah, like the mini games eventually end up being. Uh, so there's environmental changes that infer a deeper story without connecting the dots, of course, because why would they this early? And a rare game-ending appearance by a ghostly animatronic called Golden Freddy. If you accidentally trigger Golden Freddy, the game crashes. You don't lose. The game crashes. It closes entirely. Um, Secret newspaper clippings in the restaurant's hallway cameras, clicking between the cameras. Sometimes instruction sheets turn into newspapers. Um, Deliver the title's only lore, revealing that a man had lured five children into the back of a restaurant and killed them. At the time, fans had no context for these lore drops, spurring the community's penchant for building theories out of basically nothing at the time, which eventually became a hallmark. That's what brought us here now. Fans now know that these refer to the missing children's incident as FNAF 1 restores the animatronics from the incident itself, following the scrapping of the toy animatronics from FNAF 2. The fourth night's opening message, at the time, we were getting instructions and we're hearing uh, someone talk, and he's like, the phone guy's demeanor is completely different. He's talking about the animatronics. In the background, you hear the banging and banging and banging on the security doors of the office. Um, and it implies Ralph's been killed by an animatronic. There's no recording on night 5 of Five Nights at Freddy's because Film Guy did not record the last one. But this is how early this was. Following the unlockable seventh night of the original Five Nights at Freddy's, Mike Schmidt is fired for tampering with the animatronics and giving off a foul smell,
Sounds
mirroring the
familiar.
mirroring the firing of Fritz Smith in FNAF 2. That's, short and sweet. FNAF 1, we've already been spoken about most of the stuff that lifts it up. So at this point, FNAF 1's just like this nice little footbridge to other more important games between the week before and the Mimic and all that stuff. And what we're going to get into next week, which is FNAF 3, when the series really starts hitting the gas on what it wants to be.
Wow. Once
Yeah.
again, we've covered all of the ground for these games, and we are about halfway through.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
so
gonna
I
be
feel
a
like
little
we've got
bit.
about two more of these in us.
I think so.
Uh, which will get us right like almost to the week of the release of the second movie.
It's yeah,
So
gonna be
so I
perfect.
we timed it perfectly. But Brie, looking forward to this one next week, and
Yeah,
just to see how much wilder and weirder this gets.
it
Um,
is gonna get wilder and weirder for sure.
it's tempting me to want to play a game, but at this point, I'm not even sure where to start.
And maybe that's our follow-up series, Matt.
Yeah, it's Matt goes to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Matt
That'll
goes to
be.
Freddy Fazbear's. If only HHN was still open, I could have just dragged you there myself.
Well, maybe they bring it back next year. Who
Maybe.
knows?
It was
But
successful.
it was, and if the first film is any indication of the second film, this one's probably going to make a boatload of cash too.
Probably.
So that's always a good thing for folks who are fans. But nevertheless, Bree, I appreciate your time and your expertise taking me through this, and
Of
I
course.
think we can consider class class dismissed for this round, but we'll be
For
back next
this
week.
week, yeah. Next week's the midterm.
Uh-oh. Well, I'll get my cramming hat on. Haven't done
All
this
right.
in 20 years, but
It's been a
we'll
while,
get
yeah.
there. All right,
All
Bree,
right,
take care of
sounds
yourself.
good. See you
See
next
you next
week.
week. Bye.